I made a video last month where I talked about a comment someone left where someone was saying that, quote, hypersexuality is a mental illness. And I broke down my opinion on it in the video after that. I was supposed to talk about what I was going to talk about today. So I feel like in that video, and I made it clear, this wasn't the intention of what I was trying to say in the video. I don't mean to shame anybody for their psychology or their desires, because I've seen the argument or people say that the ugly truth is that shaming somebody for their promiscuous behaviors is not wrong. I actually saw a comment like that on Instagram recently too. Like yesterday morning, someone wrote, quote, shaming women for promiscuous behavior is okay, end quote. So it falls into this thought bubble where obviously we can make the argument that this is a social stigma reaction. But I also want to point out that historically speaking, this judgment, you got to understand where this is rooted from. All right. This judgment or strict control over someone's sexuality was to assure society was building stable families, obviously. Right. And it makes a lot of sense because when people aren't being responsible with their urges, right, and their sexuality, this creates broken households. Your dad never caught the ball you threw over the fence. You wonder why? You know what I'm saying? Or maybe you got a baby mama issue, okay? Or your dad got a baby mama issue. Hey, listen, we cloud our judgment because of our urges and desires. So when people say shaming others for this type of behavior, for this reason being one of them, to avoid broken families or broken households or crazy exes and all this stuff, I do understand where they're coming from. And this is from my experience, warning and preface, my experience, okay? So don't take this personal because I know some of y'all are offended by this. Maybe some of you can even relate. When I was on dating apps or just goofing around myself, I've noticed pattern. I've noticed the most emotionally unstable people I've ever met in my life are those who are very promiscuous and hypersexual in some way. That's from my experience, though. You may have had a different experience, okay? So like earlier this year, when I was on dating apps and I was telling you guys about this, I was telling y'all my dating app journey on my older videos. I remember, what I say in one of the videos, I said, yeah, here's how you could get a lot of dates on this app and so forth and blah, blah. It's pay to win. I broke down like a whole thing, right? And I said, yeah, I'm going on a lot of dates, but I'm not sleeping with anybody. I'm not doing anything, with anybody, even if I'm heavily tempted and like she's super hot or something, because what I recognized is that there was a pattern even before this time period when I was on dating apps where people who were heavily involved with their sexuality were very high cost. Not financially, but emotionally. They were mentally straining in some way. If they don't show it, they're going to show it eventually. But this doesn't really answer the original question, right? Is shaming somebody for being this way inappropriate? Honestly, look, I feel like shaming someone is like, it's almost like, when you shame someone, you're almost like going at their core identity. And that tends to be counterproductive. And it doesn't really achieve goals, because what happens is when you shame people and it really gets under their skin, because shame is usually rooted off of the disapproval of someone's core identity, it can really make someone depressed or isolate them. Or as a coping mechanism, they'll even be more aggressive with the same thing you shamed them about. I'm that way, by the way. If you shame me for something, there's a high chance I'll just keep doing it just because I'm not happy how you communicate with me. Like, I'll be spiteful. Like, oh, you talking to me like that? You shaming me? You attacking me right now? You attacking who I am? All right, you know what? I'm gonna keep doing it more just to make you mad. Like, I'm that type of person. And people don't realize they also have that in them, because people tend to do that with religion, for example. Someone pushes religion onto you so negatively or in a controlling or uncomfortable manner, right? And it pushes you away from your faith. Unfortunately, a lot of people tend to shame others using religion, and it will make somebody go against their faith. So this is what I'm talking about. Shaming will sometimes just do the opposite effect. There's a difference between shaming someone and making them feel a certain type of way. There's a difference between shaming somebody and making them understand the correction that needs to be made. Like, I'll talk about this in another video, but there's a reason why I always say in my videos, quote, try not to be hard on yourself, right? And I say specifically, quote, try not. I'm not giving you an ultimate choice here, like, try your best to do something because XYZ. Here are the reasons. Okay. I'm not saying, hey, don't do XYZ. I feel like that makes you a bad person. I don't say that. Instead, I say, hey, doing X is not okay because Y and Z. This psychology makes someone understand what consequences, or creates a correlation that makes them want to understand that their behavior may need to be adjusted, rather than making them feel like their core identity is bad or they're a sinner or XYZ, right? Et cetera, et cetera. Shaming someone is way different than making someone understand something is destructive, because that will make someone feel guilt. And if their moral compass or their current situation in life is appropriate to whatever you're expressing to them or trying to make them understand, that guilt will cause them to correct or try to maintain their behavior. But this is the thing too. Some people don't want to be saved. And I think it's because of shaming. There are certain things that many of us go through right now, myself included, where I've been shamed for certain things so aggressively or intensely in my life, where it's very difficult for me to let go of it. You know, like I'll still engage in whatever I've been shamed of, because even if I rationally understand why it's not okay, or like I later recognize, wow, like this was bad this whole time, that person was right, or it was destructive, right? I have such a negative experience being shamed about it that it's just an antisocial reaction. I'm just gonna keep doing it anyway. You know what I'm saying? I'm still like resentful about it, you know? And I'll use religion example as an example again. I know some of you are very against certain faiths or have certain faiths as that are practiced. You feel a certain way about it because of how you grew up, right? Or how people used to shame you or attack your identity because of faith, religion, whatever. Even if their intentions were good, how they communicated did the opposite effect. Now, in a sense, you don't want to see the opposite side or point of view anymore. And I understand. It's like this with politics too. You can have an opinion and someone won't even rationalize why they disagree with your opinion. They'll just flame you. And it makes you want to hold on to your opinion even stronger. Like, okay, so you're just going to flame me? You're just going to insult me instead of explain why something's wrong? All right, well, you know, that's just going to make me double down, you know, because it just, you know what I'm saying? Like, even if you later on understand that person may have been right, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to let it go sometimes. So this is why shaming somebody is just not appropriate, in my opinion. They just don't want to be saved. And if they don't want to be saved, it's not really our obligation to do that. And, you know, like, if I see someone who's promiscuous, this kind of goes back to an old video I made about if I would date an OF girl. Nope. Hey, shorty. Hey, you got an OF? Hey, I'll be nice to you, but I am not emotionally opening up to you. I am not physically opening up. I'm not doing anything more than just being cordial with you, because see, this goes back to my experience. I haven't had any good experiences. And if I shame you for having an OF, why am I making that my obligation? Why am I investing my time into that? I see what I see, and I will react how I will react. I'll see and understand. This isn't gonna go anywhere, okay? I'm not comfortable opening up to any sort of way with somebody who's promiscuous, but I'm not gonna shame you or guilt you. That's your life. That's your choices. But then I might get flamed right now. You may be like, cool. You being judgmental though. Look, I'd rather be judgmental and preserve my peace and avoid somebody, or just like walk away or not give somebody my mental space. I'd rather do that, be judgmental quietly, rather than wasting my energy shaming somebody to their face. And then, you know, let's say I do shame somebody to their face, right? I don't know how they'll react to that. They can get depressed, or they feel ostracized, or they can even go harder with the thing I shamed them about just to be spiteful, like the thing I was talking about earlier. I don't want any of that. I don't want to do that to anybody. So I'm going to just judge in my head and react accordingly, you know? I mean, what do you guys think? Hey, some people, they don't want to be saved. That's it. You see your title. Does she want to be saved? Do they want to be saved? You don't know. But shaming somebody by doing this and that, I don't feel like it's really helpful, you know? This episode is found on Spotify and YouTube. I'm out.